bars, like around Vancouver and wherever the tide goes out and there's flat signs, especially Vancouver and down towards White Rock and those places. Sometimes the tide goes out. It goes out in the summertime. It goes out for over a mile in some places. It's just flat sand. Okay, what happens there is the old people that lived here way before white men came, what they would do is they would go out at low tide and they would put a picket fence. They make a picket fence out of branches. They call it a fish weir. And they just make this corral. And then they find where there's a pond, and then they just dig the pond out, you know, so that at low tide there's sufficient water. And so then high tide, the fish come swimming in because they're looking for food near the shore and stuff like that. And then the tide turns, as it does, you know, 2 high tides and 2 low tides a day, every day. And so then the fish, they're swimming out, and then they get trapped in behind this corral. And so as the tide is going out and going out, they go back to where the water is, so they go back to the pool. So what the folks would do is they just walk down the beach and go, okay, what are we having for dinner tonight? Oh, let's have that one. Let's have this one. Okay, great. Fantastic. Boom. There it was. All the protein that they needed. Oh, we need something to cut the fish with. Oh, look at the abundance of these clamshells here. Nice, big clamshells. Oh, take those. Good knife for cutting the fish. Excellent. Great. Okay, well, we need some place to live because it's raining here. Oh, strip some cedar bark and you know, make rain gear with that, and you know, so they were totally organic. These were the ancient hippies living off the land, you know, and just in tune with nature. And they just took what they needed because, you know, if they harvest a whole bunch of fish and they don't preserve it, it sits there and it rots, and then it creates a problem, you know. So then they learn right away, hey, don't waste anything because you're just making more work for yourself. So. Yeah. So this culture here is like thousands, many thousands of years old. But people have lived here in this Halfmoon Bay, because this also has a sandbank and tidal flat that goes out. And then across the water over there, what they call Nanaimo, this is where they used to gather and have like a UN sort of conference where people would paddle down all the way from Haida Gwaii, and they'd paddle up from down in what we call Washington State, and then they would come in from the Caribou, they'd come down Fraser River, and then they'd converge over there, and that's where they would have their council meetings of many tribal nations. So they'd usually have their big assemblies every 2 years. And you know, so there's self-government. There's people that are in making decision-making of, okay, policy-making. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Discussing things. Perfect harmony. Sure, there was some conflicts and this, that, and the other, but they could resolve it all. And so one of the things that they used to do when they would sit in circle and council is they would take a feather, and they'd put a feather in the middle of the circle like that. Okay. And so all these people are sitting in the circle. So this person that's sitting over on this side sees this feather that looks like this. Right? This person that's seen on this side over there sees the feather that looks like that. This person that's sitting over there sees the feather that looks like this. This person that's sitting over here sees a feather that looks like that. Actually, it'd be kind of bent. Okay? Bent. So, with that, they would just leave that in the middle of the circle, and then they're in their discussions and and so on and so forth, and then they get into this place where they're in disagreement, and then they're ready to pull their hair out and all this kind of stuff, and so then they would stop, and they would all point to the feather in the middle of the circle. And they would realize, yes, the feather that my brother over there sees, although it's the same feather, it looks like that. Or it looks like this. Or it looks like that. And even though it looks different, we're all in agreement that it's the same feather. Okay. It's all a point of view on what the feather looks. It's all about perspective. It's like, where are you coming from? Well, I'm coming from the north, I'm coming from the south, I'm coming from the east, I'm coming from the west, da-da-da-da. All the factors or all that kind of stuff. I deal with the weather of the oceans. I deal with the weather of the mountains, da-da-da-da, so on and so forth. All these huge mitigating factors, and you know, that come into the decision making. So what they agree on is, yes, we all see a feather. And so with that, that's their common ground. And so when they would hit their impasse, they would go back to that place of where it is that we can all agree, and then they would begin going forward again. And then start their negotiations again. Huge wisdom in that. Simple, simple technique. Vast, vast wisdom in that.